Okay.
Namaste and
Namaskar.
salutations to you on Guru Purnima. Since I have been listening to your videos on Bhagavan's teaching, Shravana and Manana are happening,
Yes.
but my is that Nididhyasana is not. Again, I get diverted and it takes time to come back to that I am sense of I am.
Yes. We can, that is, Nididhyasana in the context of Bhagavan's teachings means being self-attentive. Because we have strong inclinations to attend to things other than ourselves, those inclinations are what are called Vishaya Vasanas. Because of the strength of our Vishaya Vasanas, when we try to turn our attention within, it quickly comes out again, because we again yield to, we allow ourselves to be swayed by our Vishaya Vasanas, our attention comes out again. This is what happens to all of us. Particularly at the early stages of practice. But Bhagavan has made it clear that we can succeed in this path only by patient perseverance. It doesn't matter how many times our attention is distracted away from ourselves, we have to patiently and persistently try to bring it back to ourselves. Even if we attend to ourselves just for a few moments before it again slips away, every moment we attend to ourselves, we are moving in the right direction. So it doesn't matter how slow or imperfect our practice is at first. The important thing is we get started. We try our best. Leave the result to Bhagavan. We will inevitably fail so many times, because so long as our Vishaya Vasanas are strong, our Sattvasana is correspondingly weak. So it's only by this practice, by patient and persistent practice, that we can strengthen the Sattvasana and weaken the Vishaya Vasanas. This is what the practice is all about. Bhagavan said nobody succeeds in this path without patient and persistent practice.
He's saying it over many years, and we feel that we are nowhere still. We are not even started it. That kind of feeling.
I know the feeling very well. I know the feeling very well. It doesn't matter. We continue trying. We are not looking for the result. We are looking for is to know what we actually are. When we know what we actually are, we will know we have never risen as ego. We have never struggled to be self-attentive. Until then, we just persevere. If we have a clear understanding of Bhagavan's teaching, we will understand that even if it seems to us that we're making no progress, the mere fact that we are trying to attend to ourselves means we are making progress. Because what is it that prompts us to attend to ourselves, or at least to try to attend to ourselves? It is bhakti. It is that love to know what we actually are. So the more we persevere in this practice, the stronger our bhakti grows. And the stronger our bhakti grows, the more we will persevere in this practice. So if we are looking for results, perceivable results, we'll be disappointed, because what the result we are looking for is what is ever present, which is just that fundamental awareness I am. There's, as Bhagavan said, jnana is not a new knowledge to be gained. Jnana is what is ever present, what is ever shining in our heart as I. The problem is that in addition to this jnana, we have so much awareness of things other than ourselves. That awareness of anything other than ourselves, that is ajnana, as Bhagavan says in verse 13 of Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu. So we need to withdraw our attention from other things by fixing it firmly on ourselves. The more we fix it on ourselves, the greater our love to attend to ourselves will grow, and the more the weaker our Vishaya Vasanas will correspondingly become.
When you say that we need all that we need is 1 second self-consciousness.
Yes.
To me, moment when we are totally oblivious to this whole world and fully aware of that sense of I am.
Yes. Merely being oblivious of the world it's necessary, but it's not sufficient, because every night when we fall asleep, we become oblivious of this world. So
Correct.
Merely giving up, in verse 16 of Upadēśa Undiyār, Bhagavan says, Veli videngale vittu. That means leaving external phenomena, manam tan oli uru ordale, the mind knowing its own form of light, unme uniciyam, that is true awareness. So that is there in the Tamil sentence, the first clause, manam, veli videngale vittu, it's an adverbial clause. So that plays a subsidiary role there. The main clause, the subject of the sentence is manam tan oli uru ordale, the mind knowing its own form of light. That is the subject. If we, to the extent that we turn our attention within to face our form of light, that means form of light there means the fundamental awareness I am. The more we turn our attention within, the more we are automatically leaving other things. So, as Sadhuam used to explain, now our attention is facing outwards, away from ourselves towards other things. Our aim is to turn a full 180 degrees. So, to the extent we turn, to that extent we become more clearly aware of ourselves in isolation from adjuncts, and the more other things recede into the background of our awareness. When we turn the full 180 degrees, we are thereby, so to speak, turned our back on everything else. So we are then not aware of anything other than ourselves. That state in which we're aware of nothing other than ourselves is the state of pure awareness. So as soon as ego experiences itself as pure awareness, it ceases to be ego. Because ego is a false awareness of ourselves. Awareness of ourselves is something other than ourselves. That can be sustained only so long as we're attending to things other than ourselves. When we attend only to ourselves, ego is thereby dissolved and eradicated forever. So just one moment of turning the full 180 degrees is sufficient.
So what should be the lifestyle of a sadhaka in this path of Atma-vichara?
The lifestyle of a sadhaka on this path of Atma-vichara should be inward facing. Ahamukam or antamukam, that is the lifestyle. Outwardly, let the life go on as it is destined to go on according to prarabdha. Some may be sannyasis, some may be householders, some may be beggars, some may be kings. It doesn't matter. The outward lifestyle is according to prarabdha. That seems to us to be our lifestyle so long as we identify ourselves with this body. By turning within, we are cutting that identification. So the external life doesn't matter. Bhagavan has that is, as Bhagavan says in the first verse of Upadēśa Undiyār, Kartaragnya, exactly, yes. Yeah, exactly. So it is the karma giving fruit is by the ordainment of God. So once you've done a karma, the fruit are out of your hands. When, where, and how that will be given to experience that fruit is entirely in God's hands. So we need not be concerned about the fruit of our karmas. Once the karma is done, the old analogy, it's like shooting an arrow from a bow. Once you've shot the arrow, you no longer have any control over it. So once you've done the karma, the fruit is in Bhagavan's hands. It is there stored in Sanchita. And you may never experience that. You will experience it only if Bhagavan selects it for you to experience. And because we have the Sanchita is such a huge pile of fruit that we've accumulated from countless previous lives, there's only a very small portion from that huge pile Bhagavan will select as the prarabdha for each life. So what we are to experience in this life is the fruit of our past action, but not just any fruit, the fruit selected by Bhagavan. And he selects those fruit that will be most conducive to our spiritual development. So whatever may be our prarabdha, that is what is best for us. So we need not be concerned about prarabdha because we have absolutely no control over it. What is to happen is going to happen. What is not going to happen is not going to happen. So let us not be concerned about prarabdha. So if by lifestyle you mean our lifestyle of our life as this body, that is entirely in the hands of prarabdha. We have no say over it. We can try, we can want to if it's your prarabdha to be a grahastha, you may want to be a sannyasi. You may try to be a sannyasi, but so long as you're destined to be a grahastha, you will remain a grahastha. You can try and run away from home to the Himalayas to sit in a cave. Somehow your prarabdha will drag you back home because that is what is allotted for you. So we have no freedom to change what is allotted. We have freedom to want to change it and to try to change, but no freedom to change. Therefore, Bhagavan says, do not concern yourself with the external life. Do not concern yourself with whether I should do this or whether I should do that. Leave all that to God. The only thing we need to do is to try to turn within and thereby surrender ourselves to him. That's all we need to do. We may not be doing it very well. We may be failing so many times. Let us just keep on trying. So long as we are trying, that's all that matters. Leave everything else in Bhagavan's hands. As he says in Gita, Bhagavan in the form of Krishna in Gita said, you have the adhikari, the right to action, not to the fruit thereof. So that applies to this path of Atma-vichara. We have the right to try. Leave the rest to Bhagavan. And this is the only thing worth trying. All other things, whatever actions we need to do in order to experience our prarabdha, we will be made to do those. So we need not be concerned about those actions. All the actions we do under the sway of our vasanas, those are the actions that create the fruit. We do those actions only to the extent to which we allow our attention away from ourselves. So the way to avoid doing agamya is to turn our attention within. It is so simple what Bhagavan has taught us.
Actually, what Bhagavan has taught is not so simple.
Sorry?
Was never so read your book and it was very metaphorical and it was very enigmatic. I never understood Bhagavan. So I had read so many of them. And it was only until after I saw your book and read it that I understood it.
Well, but Bhagavan was very kind to me. Knowing I'm a bit of a dull head, he brought me into the company of he brought me into Sadhuam's company, and in Sadhuam's company, he explained all these things very, very nicely. So it is all. And where did Sadhuam learn it? Only from Bhagavan. So ultimately, the source of everything is Bhagavan only. Because why Sadhuam was able to explain Bhagavan's teaching so clearly and so deeply was because he had completely surrendered himself to Bhagavan. So there was no Sadhuam, there was only Bhagavan.
I think the same has happened to you also. You don't see any messages, you only see Bhagavan.
Well, unfortunately, from my perspective, there's still an ego here with strong Vishaya vasanas. But so there's nothing special about me, but somehow, for some reason, Bhagavan has revealed these things to me, and I am able to share them with others. That's all. There's nothing special.
This is one unsolvable mystery that how can we explain it so well if you are not understood it, if you are not realized?
That's a wonder to me also. I don't know. It's all Bhagavan's, the mystery of Bhagavan.
But from where do you get this heart-melting devotion for Bhagavan that you cry in every and for Arunachala? We also have devotion, but we are nowhere near it. From where do you get this heart-melting?
From where do any of us get any devotion? It all comes only... What is the source of all love? It's only Bhagavan. Bhagavan is Ambu Swarupa. He's the very form of love. He's the very embodiment of love. So it's only from Bhagavan. Whatever little love we have comes only from him.
But you always say that Bhagavan is not a person. He is the consciousness. I am.
Exactly.
Then why
he appeared in the form of that person.
Why don't you say Bhagavan all the time?
Yes.
In consciousness is all there is.
Because so long as we take ourselves to be the body, we experience Bhagavan as something separate from ourselves. As Bhagavan said in verse 4 of Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, Uruvam Tānayin, Ulhu Paramatran. If oneself is a form, the world and God will be likewise. So we cannot, we will continue to see Bhagavan as a form. That is the form of Aruṇācala and the form of Ramana. These twin forms, these are the forms of Bhagavan, in which we see him so long as we see ourselves as this body. That's why we refer to him as Bhagavan. When we turn with, but he himself said, he is that which is shining as that fundamental awareness I am in the hearts of each one of us. So his real form is that which is shining in our heart as I. So we need to be constantly trying to turn within to worship at the feet of his true Swarupa.
Meditation and visualization, etc., to deepen this practice of Atma-vichara.
Visualization, we can visualize objects, phenomena. We can visualize visual objects, but how can we visualize that which is that is what we are investigating, is not any vishaya, not any object or phenomena. We are investigating the subject. But what the reality is not even the subject. That which underlies the subject, that which gives seeming existence and awareness to the subject, that is what we're investigating. That is, the subject is ego. The mixed awareness, I am this body. But what is real is only I am. So I am can never be an object. You cannot. Can you visualize I am? No, you can't.
No, but we can visualize.
You can visualize.
We can visualize ourselves meditating. We can visualize ourselves doing this Atma-vichara, or we can go on giving auto-suggestions to the effect that I am deepening my practice of Atma-vichara day by day. Can we do that? Will it help?
Why to do that? Because any visualization is something other than yourself. We are not looking for something temporary. We are looking for that which is permanent, that which is ever shining. What is more clear than I am?
Yes.
In order to visualize anything, you must exist and be aware. But what we are investigating is our very existence, our very awareness.
Yes.
That's why Bhagavan said in verses 8 and 9 of Upadēśa Undiyār are very important verses. In verse 8, what Bhagavan says is, rather than anyabhava means meditating on what is other. In other words, taking God to be something other than ourselves. Ananyabhava, in which he is I. That is that Ananyabhava means meditating on what is not other. That is on I alone. with the conviction that he is I, that is anatinam uttamam, that is best among all. Then that's in verse 8. In verse 9, he says, Bhava balatinal, by the strength of meditation. The meditation he's referring to in verse 9 is what he referred to in verse 8 as ananya bhava. Ananya bhava is another way. Meditating on what is not other means meditating on ourself. Meditating on ourself means Atma-vichara. So it's another way of describing Atma-vichara. So when he says in verse 9, Bhava balatinal, he means by the strength of that self-attentiveness. Bhava balatinal, bhavanatita satbhava tirutale. Being in satbhava, in the state of true being, or the state of just being, bhavanatita, which transcends bhavana. Bhavana means any type of mental meditation, visualization, or anything, attending to anything other than ourselves, is what he means there by bhavana. So we need to go beyond all this mental activity. That is, so long as we're attending to anything other than ourselves, that is a mental activity, because our attention is moving away from ourselves towards something else. But in this, by the strength, when Bhagavan says by the strength of that meditation, of self-attentiveness, being in satbhava, that is, when we attend to something other than ourselves, our attention is moving away from ourselves towards something else. That is an activity, a kriya or a karma. But when our attention is fixed on ourselves, it's not moving anywhere. It's resting in its source. So that is a state of just being. But to the extent to which we attend to ourselves, to that extent, ego subsides. And to the extent that ego subsides, we remain in the state of just being. That is what Bhagavan refers to as sat bhava tirutale. Sat bhava tu means in sat bhava, in the state of being. Irutale means just being in that state of being. That is parabhakti tattva. That is the supreme devotion.
Okay, thank you.
So in these verses, Bhagavan gives us so many. The words are very simple, but if we think about them deeply, there's so much very deep meaning and implication in these verses.
Yes, absolutely. I feel as if the quintessence of all Upanishads and Vedas has been summed up in these small works of Bhagavan.
Exactly.
Sir, why don't you write an autobiography of yours? It will help all sadhakas to understand how the journey is, and what are the pitfalls and what all one goes through.
Autobiography means a biography about a person. So long as I take myself to be this person, I am remaining in ignorance. Our aim is to separate ourselves from this person. So we shouldn't give importance to any person. You will notice, I sometimes when talking, I will refer to Sadhu Om, things that Sadhu Om has said, but I very seldom talk about Sadhu Om as a person. The reason is because what I learned from Sadhu Om is that we are here to completely erase that identification with this person. What is the greatness in Sadhu Om, or the greatness in Murugana? But they completely effaced themselves. For them, there was Bhagavan and Bhagavan alone. So because of their complete self-negation, that is, they completely erased, surrendered themselves completely to Bhagavan, so they became fit vessels for Bhagavan's grace. So what was shining through them is not Sadhu Om or Murugana, it's only Bhagavan. That is where the greatness lies. So greatness lies to the extent to which ego subsides, to that extent does our real greatness shine forth. Because what is our real greatness? That simple awareness I am, which is the true form of Bhagavan. So we shouldn't attach importance to persons. We should attach importance to that which is the reality of ego, which takes itself to be a person. That is, not only are we not this person, we are not the ego, the I that says I am this person. We are only the I within that I. That is the pure awareness I am. Ego, there's only one I. But that one I, when it remains in its pure condition as just I am, that is the reality. That is what we are. That is Brahman or Atma-swarupa or Bhagavan or whatever, God or whatever we want to call it. That is what is real. Ego is that same I am mixed with adjuncts. So we are now trying to separate ourselves from the adjunct and thereby from ego.
What are your anchors to practice this self-attention, to be in the self? Like I have a big Bhagwan painting in my home. Every time I'm in front of it, I practice self-attention.
Okay, that's
like
good.
That you must be having some anchor.
For me, the anchors are Bhagavan's teachings. Just thinking about Bhagavan's teachings reminds me to go with him more and more. But ultimately, the only anchor is I am.
Yes. What I always wonder, that you came to India as a teenager, way back in the 70s, and you stay put there, and you did not go to any other gurus. So many so-called enlightened gurus were present at that time.
Yes.
So-called or otherwise. How come you got this bhakti? I would have gone to some other sources, some Maharaj here and some Swamiji there. I would have gone. How come you stayed put there?
From
where you bring this dedication?
When I first met Swami Natyanananda, that was after I'd been maybe a month or two in Tiruvannamalai. One day, Sadhu Om often used to go to him because they were very close friends, and Sadhu Om helped him in so many ways. So one day when Sadhu Om was going there with another friend, he asked me to come along. He said, "You haven't met Natyanananda, please come." So that day when I met Natyanananda, there was one other friend there, a friend called Ramanachalam from Madurai, whose father had been a childhood friend of Bhagavan. Ramanachalam asked Swami Natyanananda, "Michael is new here. Do you have any advice for him?" He said to me, "You are very, very fortunate. You have come all the way from your country to India. India is a vast country with so many different types of gurus. But of all the gurus, you have come to Bhagavan, who is the king of all gurus, the guru of all gurus, the greatest of all gurus you've come to. And not only have you come to Bhagavan, you've also come to Sadhu Om, who will explain to you, who will enable you to understand Bhagavan correctly. Because there are so many people who were with Bhagavan for so many years, but they themselves don't understand though they may have lived with Bhagavan for 30, 40, 50 years, they didn't understand who is Bhagavan. Bhagavan has brought you to Sadhu Om. So you are so, so fortunate. But one thing to avoid, he said, so many people come here and they hear about this Babaji and that Mataji and this Maharaj, and they go off here and there. But this is the nature of the mind, to always be seeking something outside. Yes. He said, your search for anything outside is over. You need not seek anything outside. Understand Bhagavan's teachings correctly, which you can do, which Sadhu Om will enable you to understand Bhagavan's teachings correctly. And then there's only one thing to be sought then. And that one thing is yourself. You can seek it only within yourself. So don't ever allow yourself to be yes. People will say, he told me, because though he was living a very reclusive life in his hut, he knew what was going on. He said, there's a new Maharaj they're now all talking about. There's one Maharaj in Bombay called Nisargadatta Maharaj. And they're all saying that, oh, this Maharaj is teaching the same as Bhagavan. He said, there's nobody to compare with Bhagavan at all. And he said, I've heard many of the foreigners are now going to this Nisargadatta Maharaj. That means they haven't understood Bhagavan. If they had understood Bhagavan, they wouldn't go anywhere.
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. Because I was with some gurus in Bombay, and then Osho, and so many gurus we changed. Sometimes we would read JK and then UG.
Yes.
And then again Bhagwan would call, again would come back, but we wouldn't understand his cryptic sayings, his aphorisms. And there was nobody to explain it until I saw Sadhu Om's and your books.
Yes.
But how to be focused on the sadhana amidst all this family and profession and so many other things? It's Maya, the veil of Maya.
Yes, it's all there. But whatever else we may experience, what is the one thing that we constantly experience is I am.
I am.
So we simply have to be remembering that this is the center of all our experience. Or whatever else we may experience, it's all based on this one fundamental experience, I am. So that is what is ever present, ever unchanging. All other things change. The world is constantly changing, the body is changing, the mind is changing. Ego is grasping this and that and everything. But for one thing that remains unchanged, unaffected by any of all these changes, is that fundamental awareness I am. Now in waking state, we're aware I am. In dream, we're aware I am. And in sleep, we're aware I am. So that is the one thing that is always shining clearly. So whatever else may be going on, why other things distract us? Because of our interest in them. We're interested in the world. We're interested in the little life of Vinay or Michael or whoever. Why should we be interested in all these things? These are all fleeting appearances. This person we seem to be was born a few years ago and is going to be dead in a few years' time. This life is just a fleeting dream. Nothing is real. The only thing that is real is I am. So this is what Bhagavan's teachings are constantly reminding us. So if we constantly remember this and try to hold on to I am, unmindful of other things, it doesn't matter what our prarabdha may be. We may be a sannyasi sitting in a cave, or we may be a householder with so many problems and worries and financial difficulties and all these things, or we may be a king ruling a kingdom like Janaka or something. All these things, these don't matter at all, so long as we hold on to I am. If you're not holding on to I am, you can be sitting in a cave and still be in the midst of samsara. So Bhagavan has pointed out to us what alone is real. That is, what Bhagavan has revealed, it is not new. It's already there in the Upanishads. They've already said Tattvamasi. But Bhagavan has made clear to us the practical implication of all these teachings.
Yes. Sir, earlier I used to remember I am once or twice in a day.
Yes.
Nowadays, I am able to remember it 8-10 times. So is it progress?
It is.
I see.
So
it should go on increasing.
Yes. The more you persevere in practice, the more it will automatically, because it's all a matter of interest. That is why the world seems so distracting. Why our life in this world seems so distracting, because we're so interested in it. We take ourselves to be this little person. So the life of this little person is very important to us. We want to be sure that we're going to have our food every day, but we're going to be able to pay our rent and pay our bills and keep our job or whatever. We're so concerned about all these things because of abhimanam, because of our identification and attachment to these things. But these things, as Bhagavan made very clear to us, these are all going on according to prarabdha. We need not concern ourselves about these things. If we were really convinced by Bhagavan's teaching that everything that happens is according to prarabdha, we would lose interest in these things because there's nothing we can do about it. Why should we be concerned about that which is already preordained? So we need to give up interest in other things and cultivate interest in knowing who am I? What is this I? Right? The more we are interested in this, the less we will be interested in other things. That's why the nididhyasana, the practice of self-attentiveness, is also all important. But the sravana and manana are essential supports. Because without the support of sravana and manana, our mind will again go wandering off towards the world and we'll forget about this. Because there's so many things making impression on our mind. When we first hear Bhagavan teachings, it makes an impression, but very quickly other things in the world make impression upon us. So our mind again goes out. So we need to be constantly impressing upon ourselves the need, all that is necessary to do, all that is beneficial to do is to be self-attentive. Everything else is going to happen as it's going to happen. There's nothing we can do about to change it. All that matters is being self-attentive. We need to be constantly reminding ourselves this, and therefore, the more we remember this, the more we will be putting it into practice.
Now, all my life, I was a linguist. I kept teaching languages.
Yes.
Mainly English. But after I got into Bhagavan's teachings, I lost interest in career and all that. And nowadays, I am doing astrology and all. So I have to do a lot of japa of these planets, navagrahas and deities and all that. But after listening to Bhagavan's teachings, I feel I should focus more on. Shall I drop all those japas?
You can drop everything. We have to drop everything ultimately. You even have to, ultimately, you've got to be ready to drop Vinay himself. So that is, the more we are interested in this, the less we'll be interested in all these other things. The less we'll be concerned about these. Actually, Bhagavan has said this investigation, who am I? This is karma and karma and bhakti, yoga and jnana. It's everything. So no other practice. Bhagavan has made it clear in so many ways that if we take to this path, no other practices are necessary. And we will lose interest in other practices. Because these are all, at best, these are just roundabout ways of purifying the mind. But whatever roundabout route we may take, sooner or later we have to come back to this Atma-vichara. There's no other way. That is not the undervalue other practices. We have come to this path now because we've followed these other practices in previous lives. But now we've come to Bhagavan's path, no other practice is necessary.
Well, when I read your book, I felt so happy. I ordered 200 copies of that book. I talked to the publisher and I sent them to all my friends.
Yes.
But I am sorry to say, but none of them took a liking to it, or none of them got deep into this.
Yes. Only those who are ready for Bhagavan will be attracted to him automatically. Those who are not ready, there's no wrong. They're at their own level of spiritual development. Bhagavan is guiding everyone at their own level. But ultimately, we have to come to this path.
I heard from your publisher that you used to do Girivalam, that is Pradakshina of
Yes.
Arunachala twice every day. Twice. I was shocked.
Sometimes I did twice a day, but generally I did once a day for many years. But I didn't consider that as a practice. I mean, I did that because I loved doing it. I just loved, it was, when we love Bhagavan, we love Aruṇācala. And one of the ways in which Bhagavan himself worshipped Aruṇācala was by going around the hill. But that's not we need not take that as a practice. The real practice, I mean, it's beneficial. Definitely, it is perhaps one of the reasons why I'm able to understand Bhagavan's teaching so clearly and explain them is perhaps that's also the effect of doing Giri Pradakshina. But that is, we do that just for the love of it. There's if we love Aruṇācala, then we will love to do Giri Pradakshina. That is as simple as that. But the real practice that Bhagavan taught, what did Aruṇācala teach Bhagavan? Aruṇācala taught Bhagavan through silence, but Bhagavan translated into words what Aruṇācala taught him. Tirumbiya handane dinamaha kankan teriyam andranaya Aruṇācala. Bhagavan says in verse 44 of Akṣaramaṇamālai, turning within, daily see yourself with the inner eye. It will be known. Thus did you tell me, Aruṇācala. So that is what Bhagavan learned, what Aruṇācala taught Bhagavan through silence. And because we are dull-headed, we can't understand this silence. So Bhagavan has kindly translated Aruṇācala's silence into words that we can understand.
So what was your routine at Tiruvannamalai when you were there for 20 years? What was your daily routine? Only studying Bhagavan's words and doing...
The outward life is according to prarabdha. So while I was there, my prarabdha was such, but I had the great good fortune of going around the hill every day for most of the time I was there. And while Sadhuam was there, I was assisting him with translations. But for everyone, there'll be mundane things also will be there. I helped with various mundane things and like the building of Sadhuam's temple and things like that. So things happen as they're meant to happen. We need not worry about this daily routine or anything. Our routine should be to turn within. When, where, here, now, at every moment of our life. Of course, we fail. We're not turning within at every moment, but that should be our aim. And that's all that matters. The outward routine is all according to prarabdha. Leave everything. We need to give up all concern about what is going to happen. That's what the import of the note that Bhagavan wrote for his mother. The whole purpose of that is what Bhagavan taught us in that note is that we need not be concerned that in the context in which Bhagavan wrote that note, Bhagavan's mother came and she was so sad to see her young son living a seemingly very difficult life of without any comforts or without anyone to cook food for him, just begging his food and everything. She was so sad. So she wanted him to come home. And so when she was begging him to come home, he was just keeping silent. Then someone gave him paper and a pencil and asked him, if you don't want to say words, at least give some message in writing. So Bhagavan wrote that. Avarava prarabdha pakaram adhikanavan angangirintu ātma-vicāra. According to the prarabdha of each one, he who is for that, being there will make them act. That means being in the heart of each one of them will make them act. In other words, what he's implying by that sentence, if it were his prarabdha to return to Madurai, Aruṇācala will make him return to, but it's not going to happen. Then he said, what is never to happen will not happen, however much you try. So even if he had felt sorry for his mother and said, okay, I'll come home with you, it wouldn't work because it wasn't destined to happen. What is to happen will not stop, however much obstruction you make. Iduve tinnam, this is certain. Ahalin monamai irake nandru. Therefore, being silent is good. In other words, we should not be concerned about this external life because what is going to happen in our external life is already predetermined. And what we need to do in order to experience that will be made to do. Anything we do over and above that is just unnecessarily creating, it's agamya, so it's creating more fruit and strengthening the vasanas to do actions again and again and again. It's endless. That's why Bhagavan said being silent is good. Being silent doesn't mean doing nothing, because the body, speech, and mind will be made to do whatever they need to do in accordance with prarabdha. What it means is not allowing ourselves to be swayed by the Vishaya vasanas that draw our mind outwards and make it engage in action. So, monamai irake, being silent, is just turning within, holding on to I am. That is the implication.
So all these years
from
of
this
sadhana,
we need to understand, Bhagavan is telling us, you need not be concerned about your external life, because whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And if you need to do anything to make it happen, you will be made to do that. So leave it all to him. Your job is to turn within and hold on to I am.
Sir, all these years of sadhana must have made you very peaceful, very detached, I'm sure, unlike us lesser mortals.
There are no lesser or greater mortals. We're all mortals. But so long as we take ourselves to the body, we are mortal. It is true that the more we follow Bhagavan's path, the more detached we will be. And the more detached we are, the more carefree we will be. So our life is relatively more peaceful and happy than it would be if we allowed our mind to go outwards and engage in and follow worldly pursuits. But I am no better than you or anyone else. I'm just a simple sadhaka, maybe even worse, who knows? Bhagavan alone knows. But I still have strong Vishaya vasanas, but slowly, I am aware that though I'm aware of the strength of my Vishaya vasanas, at the same time, there is a type of, there is some type of detachment, some degree of detachment, when the things that seem very important in the past no longer seem so important. But how far we are or how close we are to our goal, that's in Bhagavan alone knows that. We can leave all concern about such things to him. All he's asked us is to follow unfailingly the path he's shown us. If we follow his path, it doesn't matter whether mukti is next minute or 10 years ahead or 10 lifetimes ahead or 100,000 lifetimes ahead. It doesn't matter. So long as we're following his path, that's all that matters.
Sir, last question. I am addicted only to good food. I'm not having any bad habits, but addiction, this fascination for good food still continues. I'm sure it will drop off once sadhana addiction.
Yes. All these, that is, we all have, it is the very nature of ego to have Vishaya vasanas. So Vishaya vasanas, the first sprout, that is Vishaya vasanas means our inclinations. Those inclinations give rise to likes and dislikes. Oh, I like this food, I don't like this food. So the likes and dislikes are inevitable so long as ego exists. We cannot be completely free of likes and dislikes, but we can reduce the strength of them. by not trying not to let our mind dwell on these things. Of course, we all fail. We all have things that seem to attract us more, whether it's food or this or that. There's something. Our mind still has a strong taste to go outwards. It's not the taste of a food, it's the taste of the mind to go outwards that is a problem. So that our tasting going outwards, that is what is called Vishaya Vasanas. So that we can overcome only by patient and persistent practice. So we need not worry about our Vishaya Vasanas. We know they're there, and we know the only way to overcome. We know they're there. We know we need to overcome them. But the only way to overcome them is not to fight with them, but to cling to I am. Bhagavan says, they destroying them in their very place of rising by vicharana. So if we cling to self-attentiveness, or trying at least to cling to self-attentiveness, the vasanas will be taken care of automatically. So all we need to do is just to persevere in this path. That's all that matters.
Okay. From Happiness and Art of Being, which other book would you like to suggest me to do daily basis? Guru Vachaka Kovai?
Guru Vachaka Kovai, a very important book. Yes. That's a very good book. And of course, most important of all is Bhagavan's own original writings.
Uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu,
Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu,
Upadēśa Undiyār, and
Nāna, Aruṇācala Stuti Panchakam, Ekāma Panchakam, ātma-vicāra, and so on. These are most important of all. Then next is Guru Vachaka Kovai. Then next is, have you read Patha Śrī Ramana?
Yes, both part 1 and part 2.
Okay, that will be coming out. A new edition is coming out probably later this year, which is a revised translation and will have many things that were not in previous editions. That is Sadhuam had added material in Tamil, but has never before now been translated into English. So that will be an improved edition. So that's a very, very useful book. I mean, those are the most important things, I would say. Reading other things is good. All talks day by day, all these things. But we need to understand, firstly, that those books, Maharshi's Gospel is also a nice one. But these books, none of them are exact recordings of Bhagavan's words. What people heard, what they understood and recorded. There are useful things in them, but we have to read them with a we shouldn't take them to be the exact words of Bhagavan, and wherever it's not clear, we shouldn't worry about it because it's maybe just misrecording or whatever. Also, another thing to understand with all these questions and answers in books like Maharshi's Gospel Talks, Day by Day, and such books, when Bhagavan answers questions, he gives answers that are appropriate to the questioner. So what he said there is not always his pure teachings. I mean, Bhagavan is always trying to bring people to his pure teaching, but when they're not ready to accept his teachings, then he has to come down and give teachings that are appropriate to them. So we shouldn't take everything that Bhagavan said is recorded to have said in such books. Firstly, it may not be his exact words. Secondly, even if it is what he said, it may not be his actual teachings. It may be what is appropriate to that person. So such books, it's good to have read all those books at least once. So we've got some idea about them, but we need to view whatever we read in such books in the light of our understanding of the basic principles of his teachings, which are expressed by him in a most coherent and systematic manner, particularly in three works. That's Uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu, Upadēśa Undiyār, and Nāna.
Yes, that is a Prasthanatraya of Bhagavan.
Yes, that's what I feel. Yes.
Sir, I think I already taken more than 1 hour. You had given me 1 hour. Thank
No,
you so much.
that's okay. That's okay. It's not my time. It's Bhagavan's time. So Bhagavan gave us this time together.
So much. I will, as and when I feel like asking, I will seek time from you, and I'm sure you will bless me with your time.
Wow, it's all in Bhagavan's hands.
But in India, we say Kabir Das Doha is there. Guru Govind dono khade hai kaake lagu paaye. तो आपके जो गोविंद दिए होता है, means Guru and Lord of God both. But I have to touch the feet of Guru, the way to God. So since you show the way to Bhagavan,
the feet, Bhagavan is Guru, and his feet are that which is shining in our heart as I am. So touch those feet. Those are the feet that we all need to try and touch.